Donald Trump's approach to homeless veterans, actions and promise. When Donald Trump took office as the 45th President of the United States in January 2017, one of the issues that remained a significant concern was homelessness among veterans. The U.S. had long faced a crisis with homeless veterans, many of whom were struggling with issues like post-traumatic stress disorder (PTSD), substance abuse, and lack of affordable housing. Among these veterans, a growing number were women veterans, a group that had been often overlooked in previous policies. One of the first things Trump did after entering the White House was to make it clear that veterans' issues would be a priority during his presidency. He vowed to end veteran homelessness and improve care for those who had served in the U.S. military. Trump's administration focused on increasing the funding for programs designed to address veteran homelessness, as well as improving access to mental health services, health care, and affordable housing. In 2017, Trump signed an executive order that instructed the Department of Veterans Affairs (VA) to expand its efforts to prevent homelessness among veterans. The VA was directed to increase funding for housing programs and support the efforts of local organizations that were helping homeless veterans across the country. This executive order emphasized the need to provide affordable housing and mental health support, with a focus on improving the lives of veterans who were living on the streets or in shelters. In 2018, Trump signed a $2.1 billion bill that allocated funding to combat homelessness among veterans. This bill was designed to enhance the VA's housing programs and provide emergency housing for veterans. It also sought to increase support for mental health services, which were crucial for veterans dealing with the trauma of war. The bill specifically allocated money for veterans who were struggling with substance abuse and mental health disorders, recognizing that these challenges were often the root cause of homelessness. Trump's administration also made a concerted effort to address the needs of women veterans, a group that had been historically underserved by the VA. Women veterans make up an increasing portion of the homeless veteran population, and many face unique challenges, such as military sexual trauma and the difficulty accessing health care. In response, Trump's administration pushed for expanded programs to help female veterans, including safe housing and specialized health care services. The VA began to prioritize the creation of programs to help women who were homeless or at risk of homelessness, recognizing that this group needed more focused support. One of the major actions taken by the Trump administration to address veteran homelessness was the expansion of the HUD-VASH program, Housing and Urban Development Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing. This program, which had been created in 2008, provides vouchers for homeless veterans to rent housing, as well as supportive services to help them reintegrate into civilian life. The Trump administration worked to increase funding for the program, and by the end of his term, the program had helped tens of thousands of veterans find stable housing. In addition to these efforts, Trump's administration made significant strides in addressing veteran suicide, another critical issue facing former service members. While not directly related to homelessness, the issue of suicide among veterans is often linked to the challenges that lead to homelessness. Trump signed the VA Mission Act in 2018, which was designed to improve healthcare access for veterans, especially those in rural areas or those dealing with mental health issues. The law aimed to streamline the VA system and provide quicker access to services, including mental health care, for veterans in need. However, despite these efforts, the issue of homelessness among veterans, including women veterans, has not been fully solved. Critics of Trump's administration argue that while funding increased, it was still not enough to address the root causes of homelessness. The rise in housing prices and the growing mental health crisis in the country have made it difficult for many veterans to find stable housing, even with government assistance. Some critics also point out that the Trump administration's approach focused too much on short-term solutions, rather than long-term prevention programs. Furthermore, while Trump's efforts were praised by some, others felt that the promises he made were not consistently followed through with adequate funding. Many homeless veterans still faced bureaucratic red tape, long waiting times for VA benefits, and a lack of access to the kind of comprehensive support they needed to rebuild their lives. Despite the challenges, there were some successes during Trump's presidency. According to reports from the Department of Housing and Urban Development (HUD), the number of homeless veterans in the U.S. dropped by about 50% between 2010 and 2019. While the problem of homelessness among veterans is far from solved, these figures suggested that the increased funding and focus on veteran homelessness during Trump's presidency had some impact. As Trump left office in January 2021, the issue of veteran homelessness remained a complex and ongoing challenge. Many veterans were still living in shelters or on the streets, and critics argued that more needed to be done to address the long-term needs of veterans, particularly in the areas of mental health care, affordable housing, and employment support. What do you think about Donald Trump's efforts to address homelessness among veterans? Do you think his policies made a real difference? Or do you believe more should have been done? Share your thoughts in the comments below.